Hello, welcome back. So today's video clip is about why boredom and irritability can in fact be a good thing. However, I expect your first thought might have been, no, they're not a good thing. They're not great. I don't like them. I agree with you. I don't like them either. And in fact, we live in a world where, if anything, we're encouraged to try to get rid of boredom and irritability when they arise within us. They're viewed as negative states, things to be gotten rid of. So what's a little bit behind that? So if we're bored, often the first thing that we will do is look outside of ourselves for a cause of that boredom. So who is the boring person that we are with? The boring party we're at, the boring room that we're in that needs to be redecorated so it can be interesting again, the boring job, the boring relationship, the boring activity, the boring society, the boring world, the boring nothing on TV. All these reasons why we could be bored. And what those all have in common is that they are factors outside of ourselves, outside of our own experience. So what we're doing there is we are taking the line that if we're bored, it's because we are being bored by something outside of us. Now, if that's the case, what we're likely to do is either complain about it, argue about it, prove ourselves right, or try to find a way to get rid of the boredom. Because it's something that's wrong, it's nothing to do with us really, and so the best thing to do is get rid of it. Again, nothing wrong with that. However, the difficulty is that if we are doing things in order to get rid of boredom because we've decided that boredom is a bad thing, we may well end up embarking on activities for the wrong reason. So, for example, if you decide to use another human being to help get rid of your boredom because you're bored, that can be quite disrespectful to the other person and not much fun for them. And it kind of doesn't really work because it's not an authentic way of relating. Or supposing we decide to add some stimulation into our lives to get rid of boredom, perhaps in the form of stimulating, exciting TV shows, alcohol, drugs, anything that provides a stimulation that gets rid of or covers up the feeling of boredom. Unfortunately, though, those things only work temporarily, so there's a risk of having to keep doing them, which ends up being not very good for us. Equally with irritability, the same applies. It's really easy if we're feeling irritable to blame it on external factors. The annoying partner, the annoying weather, the annoying politics, the annoying monetary situation, all of these perfectly valid reasons why we might be irritable, but they may not actually be the point. It could be that we are simply irritable because we're irritable, not because we are being irritated by something outside of us. And again, if we take steps to correct the things outside of us that we believe are irritating us, we could be putting a lot of energy into an unhelpful and not useful, unproductive direction and alienating the people outside of us. Now, if it's true that your life is boring, if your relationship is boring, if your job is boring, if your family is irritating and annoying, if all sorts of things in your life genuinely do need in some way tweaking or addressing, then great. I trust fully that you will go ahead and do that. However, it's really worth considering the possibility that our boredom and our irritability or irritation could be experiences that are going on within us for some other reason. One of my teachers used to tell me and tell all of us that boredom can be seen as a very high state. A state which is achieved only when there are no real problems occurring. So in other words, boredom becomes a kind of transcended state beyond problems, beyond issues that must be addressed in the next 5 minutes. So boredom at that point then becomes a sign of being in a state where there's a lot of space for possibility, space for something new. And that the experience of boredom is like a kind of psychological preparation for that, because it's a feeling of emptiness, lack of meaning, making space for new meaning, putting something new into that space. Equally with irritability, irritability can come about when we reach a point where we are no longer being stretched. Our creativity is no longer required for our day-to-day living and within our current projects and relationships. So irritability can be a sign that we are lacking sufficient challenge or stretch in our lives. So if you are experiencing boredom or irritability or both at the moment, by all means correct all the flaws and issues and problems that may exist in your life. God knows I've got plenty in my life I could be addressing. So it's a never-ending list. Alternatively, you could pause, breathe, allow yourself to experience the boredom and the irritability and inquire into it. Ask yourself the questions, am I bored because there's space now in my life for me to create something new, for me to create new meaning, and for me to become more interesting to myself? And if I'm irritable, does this possibly suggest that I am not sufficiently stretched to satisfy myself? Not on some absolute or arbitrary scale, but on my own scale of feeling utilised, creative, stretched, and fulfilled within that. So especially if at the moment, for whatever reason, you are unable to carry on the usual activities that you fill your life with, you can feel blessed. And at this point, everyone might hate me for saying that. So it's a possibility, that's all I'm offering here. A possibility that if you're feeling any boredom or feeling any irritability, these could be a good thing. These could be signs that you've reached an exalted place where it's really time now for you to create something new. And where you now have the capacity to be stretched and challenged further than ever before in your life. Thank you and have a beautiful day.